Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Samriel. Welcome everybody to Final Fantasy XIV commentary. I've been receiving a lot of questions on my Final Fantasy XIV commentary videos, recent ones and some of the old ones. As of recent, I've not had the pleasure to answer them because I've been so busy. There was one particular question though, regarding Final Fantasy XIV's payment model that has been asked before, and I want to make a video on it, show my stance and telling you my stance and just chiming in because it seems like a really good video topic. By now you've probably read the title and you're gonna hear me talk about Final Fantasy XIV and the free-to-play model. The first thing I want to do is clarify that I'm strongly against Final Fantasy XIV going free-to-play. Hell, I'm even strongly against Final Fantasy XIV going buy-to-play or even adopting any other payment model other than subscription-based. Final Fantasy XIV has, for me personally, brought a incredible quality product with content patches, with a very successful launch for an expansion. They have brought in new things to the game such as new classes, new areas to explore, the flying mechanic, new raids, new dungeons, new trials, even a new PvP area and new PvP game mode, just to show interest that they want to work on PvP eventually. In general, the standard quality of work has been incredible from Yoshi P and the Final Fantasy XIV team over in Square Enix. They've provided an incredible MMO experience for me and I am in love with it. My situation may be a little different compared to other people out there. I found Final Fantasy XIV out of desperation. I was looking for something that would actually make me feel like I'm playing an MMO again. I've been playing World of Warcraft, Warlords of Draenor. Some of you may relate to it, some of you have had the same experience as me, but Warlords of Draenor provided me very low quality product for the amount of money I paid for and the amount of years I invested into the game. I played since Cataclysm, invested roughly 2.5 years into it, and then dropped it and wanted to look for something else. And while I was looking, I found Final Fantasy XIV. I tested the water, saw what it's like, and the first month has offered me tons of entertainment that I went ahead and just subscribed permanently. And I'm still subscribed today, still playing daily, even though I don't get to do raids and dungeons like I usually do. I still get on even to do my dailies, to do my beast trap quests, to do my hunting logs, to level some characters, to work in pieces of gear, to even craft and gather a little bit. I still get on every single day to play a little bit here and there whenever I can. College is a busy time for me, so it doesn't usually offer a lot of time for me to do raids. And ideally what brought me over is that Heavensward was an incredible expansion out of the 3 expansions that I tried. I got into World of Warcraft's Warlords of Draenor, that was a bust. Guild Wars 2's Heart of Thorns, that was kind of a bust for me as well. But Heavensward nailed it. I loved Heavensward, I loved everything from leveling to the raids to dungeons. The story was great, the new classes were really exciting and exhilarating to try out. Learning how to fly in Heavensward areas and Ishgard areas was beautiful, it was amazing. I remember taking flight first time around in Western Kurthus. It was amazing, it was one of those breathtaking experiences that I still remember to this day. Especially after Warlords of Draenor clipped my wings, it was amazing to fly around again and just feel free. And just be able to traverse these lands like the Sea of Clouds. Just fly around there, it's just beautiful, it was amazing. It was one of those exciting feelings that I still remember to this very day. Something that truly made me say, this is the game for me, this is my MMO, this is the thing for me, this is what I'm craving, this is what I'm chasing. And if my $15 a month are gonna provide me more of that experience, more of that same experience, by all means, take my money Square, take my money Yoshi P, take my money Final Fantasy XIV team, and make amazing products out there. Make beautiful experiences, make great new lands for us to explore, new classes to play. By all means, my money is yours. Please provide me more of that experience. Final Fantasy titles in general were not really my type of game before in the past. I never really got into Final Fantasy up until Final Fantasy XIV. I've said it before in several videos, but I didn't start as a Final Fantasy fan. I started as just an MMO fan, and I wanted a game that has decent MMO mechanics and actually feels like a solid MMO. Final Fantasy XIV was it, and it got me hooked. I won't lie, it really got me hooked. In regards to the payment model, however, a lot of people online say that maybe Final Fantasy XIV would do decently well. I mean, WildStar is doing well, and Blade and Soul is doing well, and Star Wars The Old Republic is still alive and kicking. And while I cannot argue that those games are still alive and still have some sort of a player base, you have to understand that they have publishers. Final Fantasy XIV and Square Enix are self-publishing company. They don't have a publisher of their own. They self-develop and self-publish games. They have to be the people that make the games and then at the same time advertise the games and pay for their own stuff. Typically, for example, in the case of Star Wars The Old Republic, BioWare is the developer, BioWare being the company that develop games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. BioWare creates the games and then has Electronic Arts, EA, as the publisher, do most of the funding. They do the advertising, they make sure the game still has interest, while BioWare develops games. Whenever Star Wars The Old Republic first came out, yes, it surely was a subscription-based model for the game, and I'm pretty sure BioWare really liked that. But because the game wasn't what the players wanted, or maybe some players didn't like the payment model, or maybe they weren't really keen on the Star Wars MMO, it didn't do well. There could be many reasons why Star Wars The Old Republic had to drop the subscription base. Maybe it wasn't advertised well, maybe it had too many things, too many hoops, too many jumps that players had to go through, that it felt a little obnoxious and a little bit annoying. Maybe it just wasn't a product that people wanted to pay for. Maybe it just wasn't an MMO that everybody thought would be the Star Wars MMO. I mean, the game still has a subscription-based model, it just has a free-to-play version. And the funny thing is, both of them together simultaneously are riddled with a bunch of microtransactions and in-game store stuff in order to customize your character or enhance certain experience, or just in general have a pay-for-convenience microtransactions. And free-to-play MMOs are going to be riddled with those, because that's the way they can make money. Rather than focusing too much on the actual content that comes with the game, they mostly spend time creating more in-game store stuff so that players can buy it, and then maybe they can put away some of that funding to create content patches and maybe expansions. If this was left up to BioWare, I am pretty dead certain that they would want to make expansions for their game or content patches and actually improve the game and enhance the game rather than making a bunch of store stuff. But because the game is not doing so well financially, and because MMOs are expensive, EA needs BioWare to make items for players to buy on the store, cosmetic items, and other pay-to-convenience items in order for the game to succeed, rather than making content patches. In the case of Blade and Soul, however, it was a little bit different. Blade and Soul originally came over to Japan as a subscription-based model game, but came out as a free-to-play game to the West, mostly because the developers and the publisher NCSoft understood that the West and Europe don't really like subscription-based models. They would have a far better chance making a game free-to-play instead of making a game buy-to-play, or even have a subscription-based model. When Blade and Soul came over to Japan as a subscription-based model, it was more like them testing the waters to see what the Japanese audience would prefer. And then afterwards, they came over to the West, understood that their game may not do as well with a subscription-based model, and instead decided to go with the free-to-play with a lot of pay-to-convenience and a lot of in-game store items. Blade and Soul never started as a free-to-play MMO in the first place. This is why NCSoft probably took time to localize Blade and Soul to the West, because they needed to change the way the game is going to operate. Rather than having a subscription-based model, they went with a free-to-play model with a lot of in-game store items. They'll be able to earn a lot more profit and be able to thrive better. It'd just be in general better for their MMOs if they were free to play over in the West. And because of these publishers, NCSoft and Electronic Arts, MMO games can have a way to thrive even being free to play. Do you remember Rift? When it first came out, it had a subscription-based model. And in total, the game seemed pretty solid. It had a really good idea, it just didn't have certain things fleshed out and other things that players in general didn't really enjoy. And therefore, they had to go to a free-to-play model instead of being a sub-based model. I'm sure they would rather stay as a sub-based model and not have so many gated content for players. I mean, in order to actually experience most of the game and different classes out there, you need to pay a decent amount of money for different packs out there in order to unlock certain classes, or just pay their version of a subscription-based model. While all those free-to-play MMOs do have a free-to-play model, they'll still try to coax you in with a lot of benefits from the subscription-based model. And then there are games out there that literally gate chunks of content away from you, not allowing you to advance or explore certain things like Arcade does. I'm sure that developers of a free-to-play MMO would rather have their MMOs be sub-based and not have to deal with microtransaction-riddled in-game stores. I mean, when I say riddled, those things are riddled. They're full of microtransactions and are purposely set up in order to convince players out there to actually purchase things and to actually get these convenience items. And having developers focus on making items for the in-game store takes away the focus from making content for the game and possibly making expansions or improving on certain aspects of the game. And if Final Fantasy XIV were to go into a free-to-play model, it wouldn't even get an expansion. The content patches would just stop, and it wouldn't be as good of a product as it is right now. Which is why I actually would rather pay for a subscription-based model in Final Fantasy XIV, because it's going to ensure that the game is not going to turn into these free-to-play games out there. I mean, some of them are good, don't get me wrong, some of them are actually decent, like Wildstar is pretty good and Blades and Soul is alright, but if Final Fantasy XIV were to have the same kind of experience and same kind of payment model, the content and the experience and the magic from it would just be gone. You gotta understand that MMOs are expensive, especially an MMO that doesn't have a publisher that pays for a lot of things. World of Warcraft is secure because it got Activision, so it doesn't matter if Legion does well or not, they're still covered by Activision. And even if you assume that Legion could be 10 months down the line, just completely flat out failing and people will be leaving droves unsubbing from the game, if you consider Legion was so bad it was worse than World of Daydreamer and people would just be flooding like crazy, Blizzard would still be able to keep their service up because they're under Activision, and Activision owns multiple games that would have no problem bailing out the World of Warcraft servers. And besides, Blizzard developed games like Overwatch, games like Hearthstone. Those two games alone could no problem keep the lights on for the World of Warcraft servers. Not a lot of game developers out there have that ability, have that security blanket of keeping the servers up and keeping that subscription up because they have other games that are more profitable. Which is why most of them have to join a publisher and have to be under a publisher, because the publisher is the safety net and is the grand overlord that commands what happens to that particular game. And as much as it sucks for the developer, that's the one thing they can do and they have to do in order to actually stay as a company sometimes. I feel like I got a little bit too heated into this topic, but I guess what I like to say is I really hope that Final Fantasy XIV doesn't become a free-to-play game. I actually rather enjoy the fact that it's a subscription-based model game, and I love the content that comes with it, and all the patch updates that come with it, and a possibility of a second expansion coming out for Final Fantasy XIV, and I would love to see the game do nothing but become better from now on. Now, there is no guarantee that the game will not eventually go to free-to-play, but I feel like we're in good hands here. Final Fantasy XIV's lead producer Naoki Yoshida, or Yoshi P, is a very critical person when it comes to his own MMO. If there is ever an interview with Yoshi P and somebody asks questions regarding game systems and how the game is going to grow and develop, Yoshi P has no problem whatsoever saying the negative things and the positive things that the game has done and what things need to be addressed and worked on. Yoshi P recognizes that the original product, the 1.0 version, was not what the players wanted, it was not what Square Enix wanted to provide as a product. In fact, Final Fantasy 1.0 version was about to even sink the Final Fantasy brand altogether. But Yoshi P recognized these problems and worked together with the feedback from the player base during the beta of the game, and still to this very day still takes player feedback into very much consideration in order to tailor a product that can be both enjoyable and profitable. And we are left in very good hands of Yoshi P. I'm pretty sure nobody at Final Fantasy XIV's development team is ever gonna see this video, but if you do by any chance, and if you're watching, thank you for making a wonderful game that I absolutely love and adore. And please, if you ever get a chance to see Yoshi P, please tell him that Thamriel is really grateful. Now, there's probably no chance whatsoever that this is ever gonna happen, but if it ever does, that'd be cool, just let me know. Nevertheless, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right here. My final thoughts are, I like Final Fantasy XIV as a subscription-based model. It is actually worth my money, and I don't mind supporting the developers that are behind the game. And although my $15 a month is a small fraction for an MMO company and MMO developers, if my fraction is going into providing great content and great expansions for the future, then by all means, you can have my $15 a month. Just make sure to keep the same quality of entertainment and I'll be as happy as ever. Thanks so much for watching, I really hope you enjoyed. My name is Thamriel. Like, subscribe, and as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video of Final Fantasy XIV. See ya!